Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today I have the first in what I hope will be a new series. In this series, what I plan to do is take a look at content created by other creators and I do a live react to their videos. And the purpose of me doing this is because what better way to get a conversation going around other people's content than to actually record my reaction to their content live. So here we go. This is the first one. This is an Eclipse video and he released this a couple of days ago. So missiles are very OP. The first thing I will say, and this is true for the first few of these videos that I do, the quality is a little bit lower, and that's because the capture card in my PC only goes up to 720. So I apologize for the quality, but I hope to get that sorted in the near future. But without further ado, let's jump straight in to this Eclipse video.
Ever wonder what it would be like if you were to have a German Raketenjagdpanzer? Well, you don't need to think about it because it's already in World of Tanks console, and today we are looking at the Raketenjagdpanzer 2.
Hang on, whoa, time out, son. Why is it pink? What are you doing? What are you doing? No, it's pink, man.
When this tank is essentially a Jagdpanzer, or essentially like a Jagdpanzer 105 that has missile launchers, and yeah, let's say that this tank has a 2-shot auto-loading missile launcher that feels very
Can't go up there.
How do we say, balanced, and that is because this tank can do 1200 damage plus in each one of its rockets, and you're about to see the Centurion 9 find that one out as we take him out for 1086. And yeah, the AMX-30B is about to also find out, which feels a little bit bad because, you know, French tank and all of that not being particularly the most competitive in the game. We managed to finish him off and pick up 2334 damage within the first minute of the game starting, and this game is definitely going to take a turn for the more damage.
Alright, the first thing I will add is that I'm not saying whether this tank is or isn't overpowered for Era 2. I haven't played it enough. It's not been in the game long enough for me to feel that I can make a decision on that. But what I can say is, rather than this being a demonstration of this tank being overpowered, I would say that is a demonstration of how not to play Vineyards in a Centurion 9 and an AMX. There is in E and F3-4, that group of 4 squares in the minimap, there is a ridge line running along the 3-4 minimap line. If you go over that ridge, you are exposed to everybody in the enemy spawn. You're just exposed. And I think what's happened here is they went over that line and exposed themselves. So that's a demonstration of how not to play Vineyards in those tanks rather than this tank being overpowered. I would just add that at this point.
So with that being said, what we do is essentially play on Vineyards. Vineyards is quite a good map for a tank that is trying to remain undetected whilst also firing its missiles off. We're still trying to learn how to use the missiles, and you can see here it doesn't work perfectly, and I'm by far not the best person at trying to kind of use the missile launchers. You know me, I have not played a load of a kind of Cold War games, but we're working it and then we're trying to make it kind of work. And of course, so far not too bad. We've hit 3 out of the 4 missiles that we've actually fired. And this is what makes this tank so special. It is that you can essentially remain undetected and find the kind of backsides of tanks. The missiles feel pretty kind of fluid in how you use them. And of course you can...
He's mentioned concealment there. He's mentioned that he likes the concealment and staying hidden. I will note he's using rations at the moment. Now I know that will boost the reload and that will boost the concealment slightly, but it doesn't boost the concealment as much as smoke would, with a 20% passive increase to your concealment. So if you like the concealment, I would recommend running smoke instead of rations, personally.
Always try and snipe cupolas and stuff like that with of course, this tank, which, the
shot.
M103A2 just about found out in that one. But of course, he's got his backside still out, so hopefully we can hit him with this next one. Of course,
That's the classic, isn't it? You sit there for 10 seconds in your artillery aiming at someone. You're aiming. They're stationary. They're not moving. The whole time you're reloading. The second you pull the trigger, that's when they move.
Manages to find his way around that rock just as we fire, which is not ideal, but either way, we're not going to complain about nearly 5,000 damage at the beginning of the game. And so I was being coached by you guys in the stream that we were playing, so I'm sure that you guys enjoyed
this is a stream replay.
Roasting me, and I certainly did get roasted for some of the missiles that we had in a couple of the games. We don't need to talk any more about it, but either way, so far we're kind of working quite well with our missiles in this game, and here you go. The next one into the Magash 5 going straight in. It almost feels a little bit...
That was filthy. Ooh.
Unrewarding playing with these missiles, because you don't really...
Unrewarding? Mate, you just pulled off a stonkingly good shot. You weaved that in between buildings. I wouldn't have even pulled the trigger on that shot, if I'm being honest. I would have let that Magat go, but you pulled the trigger and you got the kill. That was... Ooh. Ugh.
Really feel like you get the instant gratification of when you fire. You've obviously got to actually aim properly.
Not instant gratification, no, but you do have the gratification of knowing that you weaved that missile in and out of cover and you still hit the target and got the kill. I'll say that.
When you use things like this, which can be a little bit annoying, especially when you don't deal a lot of damage to a BMP2. Obviously, we hit the tracks or near the ground, so we only damage the tracks of the BMP. But either way, I don't think we can complain all too much with how we've gone so far. But obviously, now we need to start thinking about trying to maximise how much damage we can get out of this game. I'm all about after that XP at this moment in time, just trying to get through as much of the tech tree as possible. We're waiting until we get super close before we fire off our missile here, because when you free aim missiles, they just go flying all over the place. They don't actually track your kind of cursor. So you have to be in the scope to actually kind of aim where you want them to go. So with that being said, now we can kind of move forward.
That's not quite true. You can free aim missiles. You might be thinking that because you don't see it very often. I don't free aim missiles very often, but that's because I like to see the red dot of exactly where I'm aiming, because I want my missile to be precise, and the only way I can really do that is to aim. I wouldn't free aim at range because, again, you can't be very accurate, but you can free aim missiles. So let's just see how that develops.
Let's see if we can find any of the rats that might be skulking around the back of the map. So and hopefully we will. So we're moving forward. We find ourselves a nice little medium, but he's on like no health, so don't really want to go for him. We've only got one missile currently loaded in our tank, and of course you can reload those missiles, but we're going to try and find ourselves an FV4211, which was somewhat lucky to actually even pen that in the side, because you know, with a spaced armor on the side,
you found Pixel, my friend. You found the Pixel.
Never really know what's going to happen. But we're just going to YOLO in now, see if we can get any of the last bits of damage. We have 100% won this game. We'd have to do something absolutely atrocious to end up losing it. And yeah, overall, I've been really, really enjoying, like I said, with the previous tank that we've looked at, the Jagdpanzer 4.5, which I highly recommend you go and check out. It feels very much like a World War II tank that you play in Cold War. This one's the first of the Era 2 tanks.
Okay, I think I noticed something there. We'll see. We'll see how this progresses.
You get with these new German tanks that have come into the game, and it's kind of been a bit of a fresh air for me. I've really enjoyed trying out some of these tanks, even if I'm not the best at using missiles. Yes,
that is actually I'm quite pleased to hear that. Eclipse is not a big fan of Cold War, but for him to say that he's enjoying the gaming experience in Cold War, that's actually quite big. I think that's pretty big. I'm glad to hear that.
I know we missed 2 missiles on that guy, but yeah, we could have been up near 8,000 as opposed to the 7,200 that we did. But I'm not going to complain all too much. 7,300 damage. We made 100k silver as well. Remember, this is a tech tree tank, not a premium. And yeah, 1,440
first class mastery as well. That's pretty good.
That closer to the next vehicle in the line. So yeah, not bad at all. And hopefully you've been enjoying these sorts of videos where we kind of experiment with some of the other vehicles, and we can jump into the next gameplay here to see exactly what this tank can do when you aren't fully upgraded. So that gameplay is, of course, on Erlenberg. Erlenberg is one of the few maps that are in rotation within Cold War. Unfortunately, there isn't as many diverse maps within Cold War. Hopefully, we'll see some more for the people that do.
Yes, more maps for Cold War. That is a point that a lot of people are talking about. More maps for Cold War. Yes, please.
Of course, play this game mode. But if you are only hopping on to test out these tanks and give them a go, which, once again, recommend doing, it really is very quick to get these tanks. It took me about an hour to be able to unlock this tank and fully upgrade it, essentially, from literally having none of the tech tree line. We were using a couple of boosters and stuff like that to kind of get there faster, but it really doesn't take a long time. You get it very...
Ooh, it doesn't take long. I would say that's true if you're an experienced player, which Eclipse is. Eclipse is just... I think he's just hit 9 years in the game, so he's been around a while. He knows what he's doing. If you're new to the game, there is quite a steep learning curve. So if you're not earning your way through these vehicles as quickly as other people, or as quickly as you see Eclipse doing here, you know, you're not earning 10,000 XP a game, it's okay. Don't be too hard on yourself, because if you're new, you might not have many XP boosters, and if you or you've used them on another line. So don't worry too much if you're not progressing as fast as you see some other people doing.
Very quickly, and they are really cheap to actually buy as well. They're not expensive.
Yeah, cheap to buy if you know what you're doing and you've got years of experience. Again, if you don't have the silver immediately available to you to upgrade, don't worry, just grind out a couple of silver games and you'll get the silver. So if you're new or new to ATGMs, because there's a learning curve to ATGMs, don't worry too much.
Expensive whatsoever. So yeah, there's no real reason not to try them out and give them a go. And you just have to basically play them like a bit of fun, and that's essentially what I was doing. You don't have to think a whole lot. It's not a problem if you miss a shell or whatever. It's just a case of kind of getting to grips with kind of the combat. And I actually find that it's quite good to kind of learn how to use combat when you're in this mode, because there's so much fighting going on, which is probably why quite a few people do enjoy this mode, where you constantly feel like you're in an engagement. There's not periods of time. The only negative with it is there's a lot of YOLO wagon plays when it comes to this mode.
Yeah, he's not wrong there. Cold War is a much faster pace compared to World War II, and that can encourage the YOLO mindset. I mean, look at this game, for example. We're a minute and a half. We're not even a minute and a half into the game, and there is a big group of green. There's a big group of red, and they're just having at it. That you don't see that in World War II, and this is what he's talking about, where the game starts and bang, you're in the fight. Boom, you're in the fight immediately. And that's not something that you get in World War II. In World War II, it's a lot slower pace. The pace is a lot more drawn out. Games are a lot more drawn out. So you do have to think very, very quickly with Cold War. But what I've noticed with Cold War is the longer you're alive, the more you have to think. There are nuances to the way you have to play Cold War compared to World War II. But for the games that do get past this very abrupt start, boom, start, the thought out tactical gameplay can be there as well.
Which is probably why I don't enjoy it as much. Like you don't feel like you're kind of you don't get the opportunity to kind of think as much, which is where you have to think on the fly and try and just get as much damage as you can in those sorts of games. So with that being said, we're kind of fighting on the front lines. This tank is quite good at being able to just kind of roll over and deal like 1,000 damage or whatever. And you can see me here just trying to get that damage out as quickly as possible.
Nice shot
And
on
if we take a hit or so,
4-11.
it's fine. We've got the hit points to do that at this point. So you can kind of learn from this game mode. And of course Cold War in general as to how you can fight tanks. You also learn quite a lot about spaced armor in this mode, because almost every single tank in this at Era 2 will have some form of spaced armor that you kind of have to figure out how to deal with. And so once you've done that, when you come back to World War 2, if you do play it, then you kind of at least know how to deal with tanks that have a lot of spaced armor, and there's quite a few in the game. So
oops. Yeah, he is right there, and that's why earlier in this video he mentioned that the French AMX wasn't as competitive, and that is because the French tanks typically come with heat as standard, and heat is terrible against spaced armor. So the French tanks are less competitive because their standard rounds are going up against a lot of spaced armor, and they're just, you know, unless you're firing the gold APCR, which I would recommend most people do just because you can be more competitive, you will struggle in Era 2, especially with heat. So yeah, Era 2 is good for teaching you about how heat interacts with spaced armor. He's right about that.
That will always be a benefit as well, even if you're not entirely invested into playing this mode. But we pick up 4,200 damage. We've also got 550 assistance, which is nice, and now we can just go in. We find ourselves a T-72 who we don't actually pen with our missile. Maybe should have aimed that one slightly better, but he's a little bit triggered that we've hit him, and so he's coming rolling around trying to get us. So let's just pull back down the ridgeline and hope our teammates come down as well. And the bandit's also coming YOLOing in, but unfortunately for him, we might be able to come up from behind him and get a bit more damage. So we're using the reverse speed, not a difference, as I said earlier, from doing that. We managed to launch one using the free aim. At super close ranges, you can free aim like that, but you don't want to from long range, because the missile, like I said, will just go veer off to one side or whatever, and you don't hit. I learned that from the hard way.
Right, I think I've worked out what's going on here. I heard the auto lock audio cue there. Now I think what's happening is the reason Eclipse is saying you have to aim is because one way of cancelling auto lock is to press the left trigger and aim. Auto lock, ATGMs and auto lock don't mix. You cannot auto lock a target, pull the trigger with an ATGM, and have the ATGM auto track to the target. That was how it was during the super test. That's how it was during the that's how it was in the super test for ATGMs, but that quickly became apparent as being completely overpowered. It took no skill at all to hit an ATGM shot, so that was removed. But you can still auto lock a target with the aim reticle, but once you pull the trigger, it will just go in a straight line. So I think that's what's happening here. So if you auto lock and then aim, it will cancel auto lock and you can manually follow it in. If you just free aim at a target without auto locking at all, you can track the missile manually to the target. So I think what's happened there is he auto-locked the bandit, pulled the trigger, and it hit the target. But it did that because the bandit was stationary. So the missile didn't need to move at all. It just had to go in a straight line and it hit the target. So that's why that worked that time. But the rest of the time, if you want to free aim a missile, you cannot auto lock the target first because you will run into trouble. So I think that's what's happened there.
Much to your guys' enjoyment, I expect. When I was just missing shells when I was in the free aim, wondering.
Yeah, you will miss a lot of shots if you auto lock and pull the trigger. So yes, you would look like a bit of a noob doing that. That might explain it.
Where they were going, but with that being said, we've picked up 6.1k combined, which, as I said again,
still
you're going to make profit if you have a game like this, and for the most part you're still going to make profit in almost every single one of these sorts of tanks.
Not bad for a pink
because
tank, eh?
You're using the main ammunition. There is no premium with this ammunition, so you are just
right. So if you notice here, you probably heard it. He pressed auto lock and he's auto locked the Enigma at the top of the hill here, and you can see the tiny little circle is on where the Enigma is. So he's auto locking with ATGMs at the moment. So the only way he will hit his if he doesn't cancel that between now and taking his next shot, the only way he'll hit the target is if he's at very close range. So let's
using whatever the tank
see
has.
What happens here.
And so with that being said, we can kind of go in, get a bit more damage now. Our game is basically over. There is no way that the enemy team are going to be able to come away with anything.
Yeah, close range.
Once again, we just kind of roll in, fire off that missile. We're doing the weasel plays, if you know what I mean. At era 3,
you
and they
dirty
go up to
weasel
5.7k.
Dirty weasel.
And now we're going to actually aim. We want to actually hit this. I'm not going to free aim it.
So there you go. He auto locked the back end of the Enigma, but when he aimed, that cancelled auto aim. He pulled the trigger, the red laser shows up, and he manually guided this shot to the target.
And there you go, an extra 6.8k into this game.
Yeah.
And 3 enemies taken out, not bad at all. 8 missiles actually fired and hit. And so, yeah, a pretty decent result by far, and 1500 base XP as well, putting us up there with some nice silver too to go alongside it. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed having a look at what this tank has to offer. Super quick video, just...
Yeah, so there you go, guys. That is Eclipse's missiles are OP. I don't know if that demonstrates that missiles are OP. I think that's a title to get people's attention. Fair play. But yeah, I'm really quite pleased that Eclipse is enjoying the Cold War gameplay. That's a complete 360. Not complete 360. That's going back in the same direction, isn't it? That's a complete 180. And what I heard from him last week, it was, yeah, it's nice to see that he's enjoying the Cold War gameplay. I really like that. So hopefully we'll get to see more of his Cold War content, because hey, I like to see more Cold War content. That would be great. So yeah, there you go, guys. If you've enjoyed this style of video, this format, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I've got. So please, if you've enjoyed the video, please leave it a like, if not a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.